Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Industrial Packaging Podcast with me, your host, Nathan Dube, Digital Marketing Specialist at Industrial Packaging. On today's episode, we have special guest Mark Borison. He is a producer, actor, and the host of Jungle Jim's International Market podcast. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, Nathan, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
The first question I have for you today, Mark, is can you tell us a bit about yourself and your role at Jungle Jim's?
Sure. My name is Mark. I've been an actor professionally for the last 10 years or so, predominantly in the commercial space, though I've done a little film and TV. I've led campaigns for brands like Pepsi, the NFL, White Castle, Mentos, and a lot more. I've had a really great experience so far. Former podcaster and radio personality. I hosted a pretty popular comedy show, top 100 iTunes comedy rated show called Question Mark, which was a bad advice show where you could call in and I would give you bad advice. And then after that, I moved there. I've done some different hosting gigs. I worked in the technology field for a little while, but food was always a big passion of me. And this just seemed like such a natural opportunity once I found out Jungle Jim's was looking for somebody to create a show for them.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a really unique business. I really like the branding, the typography. It's very colorful. I've never been there, but from looking at the photos, the open floor plan is certainly very unique. We don't have anything like that up here, not that I'm aware of up in Massachusetts. But what separates Jungle Jim's from like other markets? Like what are the top like 3 or 4 things that make it very unique compared to your average supermarket?
Well, I'd say, a few things. The size, first and foremost. We have 2 locations, both in the Cincinnati area. And I think combined, we're looking at something close to 600,000 square feet, thereabouts. So they are significantly large stores. I would say the Fairfield store in particular, it's about 1.5 to 2 times the size of like a very large Costco. So just to give you an idea of the overall scale of the building, I think that's a big thing. But we have so many little unique identifiers. I think probably the biggest one is that in addition to our, we have an American grocery section, but we carry foods from over 70 different countries. And not only do we do that, but we also often hire people from those countries to help us both, stock, manage, and buy for those countries. So we really try to get a very authentic look on that. A personal favorite for me, outside of, to give you an idea of what a unique place Jungle Jim's is, they built a podcast and video studio for me to work out of, literally in the brand new entrance to the store. So it's that kind of place. We have a monorail on site that goes between our main building and one of our event spaces that's on campus, but not attached to the building. I could go all day from the 30-foot tall Campbell's soup can animatronic we have in American Grocery. The list goes on. It is a wild and crazy place, and I am literally so excited every day I get to come to work. It's the strangest sensation I've had in my professional life.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It is nice when you enjoy your job and look forward to coming into work rather than dreading Monday mornings.
Right.
All right, great. Well, with that little bit of background information, we'll go on to question number 2, which is where can people find you on the web?
So if you want to follow the Jungle Jim's podcast, the best way I would say to do that, and you can learn a little bit more about me and the show, as well as have links to however you'd like to follow me, we just recently started putting the show on YouTube as a full video show as well, which I'd highly recommend people going there. But we've got that, our YouTube, all the major podcast platforms. I started a TikTok for Jungle Jim's. We're all over the place, but you can go to junglejims.com/WJJI. And that's the name of the faux radio station that we built here. So
nice. I like that. That's awesome. Okay, well, let's dig into some packaging content now with question number 3, which is, you must come across some interesting foods at Jungle Jim's. Are there any products with packaging that really sticks out from the crowd?
That's a great question. I would say in general, I really like the entirety of our Asian section. I think is just so cool in general, right? And there's so many unique products. It's hard to pick just one. But I think a lot of it comes down, for me personally, like certain branding. I had a really fun box of mochi recently.
Okay.
And the mochi itself came in almost this like lunchbox kind of design. And then inside were all these individually wrapped candies. And I thought that was pretty cool while not being overly intrusive as far as having maybe too many layers. But with all those, one of the ones that really sticks out to me is I've been eating these chips from, I believe they're from Taiwan, and the brand is called Lonely God. And I just thought, I was like, well, that's a crazy name. And the packaging is really colorful and fun. And they have this cute little like cherub on the cover of each flavor. And it's usually they're slightly themed to whatever the flavor is. Right now, I think we had a special on one that was like a rose salt flavored chip, which I haven't gotten to try yet. But the packaging looks great. And, for me, it's just sort of funny. It's not a name brand I would expect to see frequently.
Yeah, I cannot say I've seen Lonely God potato chips. And being in the food packaging industry, we come across quite a lot of potato chips. We package millions of bags of potato chips over the course of the year. So I might have to order some online and give them a try. I like unique and interesting foods, and rose and sea salt. That sounds quite interesting to say the least.
I'm not necessarily confused, but I'm like, oh, what's this going to taste like? But maybe when we're done, we'll connect afterwards, and maybe I can put together a little care package for you.
That would be awesome. Much appreciated.
Of course.
All right. Well, moving on to question 4. Now, I know you said that it's hard to pick, but do you have a favorite product at the store?
I actually do. This is the one that I always try to keep up on this. And again, I have a lot. But if someone was like, Mark, you can never go to Jungle Gyms again, what is the product that you would come back for? And for me, it is a product called Mezzo Mix. And if you've not had Mezzo Mix, it's a Coca-Cola product from Germany, and it's a mixture. I think they call this type of beverage a Spezi. And I know Paul Anner makes their own version, but it's Coca-Cola and orange. And I don't know how to tell you how refreshing it is, but I love a good soda anyway. Coca-Cola is great. Mezzo Mix is one of those things that if it stopped getting sold here, I'd be very upset about it, to be honest with you. It's so hard to find, and it comes in from Germany. It's great. If any of you are out there listening, like, I like Coca-Cola and I like orange, do they pair well? The answer is unbelievably well. So definitely try it if you could ever get your hands on it. I think the only other place outside of Jungle Gyms in the States that carries it is literally at the World of Coca-Cola in Atlanta, Georgia.
Interesting. Well, that's incredible because, I mean, I have a lot of friends who are foodies as well, and we'll order foods from, international places from all over the world occasionally, whether it's like super spicy ramen or fruits that you can't buy around here. So I'll certainly keep an eye out for it. Is there anything unique about the packaging for this Coca-Cola, or is it pretty standard red can, maybe a picture of an orange or something?
So I'm glad you asked. It's not quite. So it's actually kind of nice in that I feel hard for me to describe maybe in grand detail, as I'm not an artist in that sense, but it's almost kind of like a color blocked pattern where it's orange and red. So you get some of that classic Coca-Cola red, obviously the orange, and all of the labeling's in German. So there's a big, and pardon my pronunciation as I don't speak it, but it says Cola Kust orange, or however orange is pronounced in German, but written on the can. And I don't know why, but every time I see it, I'm like, oh, and I'm guessing it means that like it's got a little kiss of orange in it. And I think that's kind of an adorable way to brand it in the first way, but it's nice. It looks, it's kind of like a cross. I tell people it almost looks like if I thought Coca-Cola was moving into the beer space, because it's somewhat in that kind of, I feel like it almost would fit more in the maybe energy drink beer category than the traditional soda, but it's lovely.
Awesome. Well, I'll certainly keep an eye out for it, and I appreciate the info. Moving on from there, we have question number 6, which is, and this is a funny one, everyone loves this question. Have you ever experienced rap rage, which is getting angry at a product that is hard to open? And if so, can you tell us a story about it?
I recently had this, and I don't know if I edited it out of the episode or not, but about a month or so ago, I'll do a few different segments on my show, and I try to switch them out when necessary. And one of the segments I was doing was called Imports versus Domestics. And so what I would do is I would take like a popular US product, and then I would say, hey, what is an international version of this product? Then we compare things like, things like the packaging, the taste, price point, all that kind of stuff. So the episode I did is I took a regular shortbread cookie, and it was a Lorna Doone, and I compared it to a shortbread cookie from the Philippines as well as one from the Ukraine. And
Okay.
one of my things I don't love about packaging in the modern age, and I definitely understand why it happens because, well, people lick ice cream containers and then put them back in the freezer. So it's like we kind of have
Yeah.
to. But the Lorna Doone box I had drove me insane. Oh my gosh, I actually have it in the room still. It was, if I can get to it easily, it was multiple layers. So you had, yeah, I'm looking at it right now. So you had the box layer itself. So the box, no, nothing weird there, just a cardboard packaging. And then inside, they had a separate, so they're all individually wrapped cookies, but there was another layer wrapping the individually wrapped cookies. And I just looked at it, I was like, why did we put an extra layer of plastic for all these individually wrapped cookies? And I was so frustrated trying to open it because I'm on camera doing it. Like, how do we think this is okay? And so, as I was torn a little bit, I was like, you've individually wrapped them. They're safe. I promise. Like, just let me eat my cookie. As compared to the Filipino version was just like in a little, like a screw-on lid tub that was sealed just with a little plastic ring. So that was pretty easy in and out. And the Ukrainian one was almost like, I forget the brand name, but like those Lance cracker sandwiches. It was
Yep.
almost just like a little simple shrink wrap plastic thing that I thought was really easy. But the Lorna Doone, they were still, all products were good, but I laughed at how many layers I had to get through to get to it. And that's usually how you incur the Mark Borison rap rage.
Yeah, it's funny. Everyone I've asked this question to on the podcast, which I think is the majority of the people I've interviewed, usually does have a story. And some of them are not as funny as yours. Some of them, people are using knives or scissors and they end up cutting themselves because the packaging is so hard to get through. And I mean, we always have a good laugh about it, but yeah, it's interesting that you say the multiple layers of packaging. That's one of my personal pet peeves. I'm big into sustainability.
Yep.
It's something that's important to me, and yeah, nothing drives me crazier than when there's a box, a secondary box, or a bag, and then individual wrap. That's just so much material and so unnecessary. I mean, I'm gonna bet it's probably for branding purposes, and I guess
Sure.
if you had like a box of that and you had kids and you put out those snacks and then they grab them, and then the kid goes home and tells his mom, "Oh, I had these cookies. I really like them." So, but yeah, I can absolutely empathize with you for that.
That's a great point about the branding, and it's something I didn't really think about. Which, on one hand, I'm with you. I'm all about the sustainability. And what's been really fun to find out is that's like a big thing for us here as a brand too. I think we were
Nice.
one of the first big grocers to move into like biodegradable bags and that kind of stuff, at least in our area. I knew, but I'm right with you. And I get it from a branding perspective, but it is one of those silly things that I feel like sometimes brands get so caught up on like make sure they know it was us, and you're like, yeah, I'm literally holding a box of Lorna Doones that has a picture of Lorna Doones on them. The individual package also has the photo and name on it. I didn't think this clear plastic wrap was necessary. Sorry, Lorna Doone. I hate to do you dirty. Like, sorry, Nabisco. This is how I kill sponsorships for my show.
Well, you got the humor edge, so maybe they'll take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Hopefully, if not, well, I guess the good news is I have very delicious Filipino shortbread cookies accessible to me.
Always going to have a plan B.
That's right.
All right, so with that story in mind, the next question is: would you pay more for a competitor's version of the product if their packaging was easier to open?
I would say, yes, is my short answer. My long answer is maybe more like how much more.
Right.
Because I'm pretty good at managing my emotions, at least in a short frame of time, to go, okay, well, this was a little bit of a problem, but I really like the product. So I'd say it would be probably a combo of is the product equally good and is the price not drastically more? I'm into it. And I think, yeah, I think simplicity is key. I really, one of my favorite things in the design world in the last few years is seeing so many designs become not reduced. I think that's a bad word, but again, more simplistic. And like, hey, this is the brand, this is the product. Here's all the ingredients, very easy to read, that kind of stuff. And then, oh look, the packaging is incredibly easy to open. You're right there to it. Sometimes even they're resealable. That's exciting to me.
Yeah, no, that's interesting that you say that. I wrote an article for a magazine this year. I can't remember what the title of it was because I do quite a lot of content for my company, both in and out of our walls. But it was the top 5 packaging trends for 2022, and minimalist packaging was one of those. And it is coming on the rise. And I like it for the same reasons you do. I like the aesthetics. Like what's an example? Recently, I bought a bar of soap, and the ends of the bar of soap were exposed, and it was just a piece of 100% recycled, not cardboard, but like a thin piece of paperboard. It just had the brand, the name, and on the back there was the ingredients. And I absolutely love minimalism, particularly in our modern day world, because if you back up to like, I don't know, let's say the 80s or 70s or whatever, you went to the supermarket, you went to go buy toothpaste, there might be 2, 3, maybe, but even then, I think that might have been a lot. Nowadays, no matter what you're buying, there's 30 varieties of everything, and they all have very tiny, subtle differences, and sometimes noticeable upticks in pricing, and
Right.
it can actually drive people nuts. I've read articles about how the over these excessive amounts of variety contribute to people's anxiety. And I think I speak for everyone right now in the world in 2022. I don't think any of us need any more anxiety than we already have.
Well said. Yeah, too many options is a prison. I don't mind what reading reviews if I'm buying like a TV or a car or some other large ticket item, but I don't really want to sit there and watch a YouTuber review toothpaste before I buy it. I'm just kind of like, I'll just pick one and go for the. At this point, I'm just going to involve my dentist instead.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, the dentist I go to, I always get a gift bag now. Like I had the same dentist for, like probably 25, 26 years. And then I went to this new place. It's very commercialized. There's aspects I like and don't like. But one of the things I do like is I get a goodie bag at the end, and it always comes with a tube of toothpaste, a new toothbrush, floss. And it's just like, well, sweet. Don't have to think about that. Those are 3 things I'll never have to worry about buying again.
I love that so much. Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, moving on to the next question. We just kind of skimmed over this in a previous discussion now, but as a consumer, is sustainable packaging important to you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that's not even just as a consumer, but as a human living on Earth and who plans to continue living on Earth. I think that is so huge just for the longevity of our survival, the health of the planet. I mean, look, I mean, there's a billion reasons why I want the fish to still exist in 20 years and all this kind of thing. So I think sustainability is one of those things that unfortunately it wasn't always built in. But at the same time, I do think it's great that we now are, it seems like a lot of brands are really being conscious of that as far as, knowing or at least focusing on that to some extent. For example, I mean, even as something as simple as like, hey, those plastic bags you get your groceries in, well, guess what? They're not really plastic anymore. They're now biodegradable. So they're not just going to sit in landfills for the rest of humankind. It'll just be a portion of it. So I
Yeah.
think that's a really great move. And I want to both encourage and support people who are, viewing the world that way. Like we got to do something. So I think every little thing should count as, towards our future survival.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And, for a company like Industrial Packaging, it can be complicated. We're a flexible packaging company, meaning
Sure.
all the packaging that we sell is flexible packaging, which means you can bend it out of its shape, as opposed to rigid packaging, which would be like a metal can, a glass jar, things of that nature. But we are working with vendors producing sustainable alternatives. Like, for example, we're partners with a company for our stretch film needs, and they make a biodegradable stretch film. It's not available yet. It's going to be available sometime early next year. But in the interim, they developed a second type of stretch film, which is the stuff you use to wrap your pallets before you throw them on a truck
Oh,
and ship them
cool.
to your customers. But yeah, they have what's called a PIR recycled stretch film. And what that means is post-industrial recycled. So what they do is they go out, they collect all of the used linear low density polyethylene stretch wrap waste from their customers and clients. And if you have enough of it, they'll even pay you for it. So if you properly sort it and bale it, you need a machine for that. But if you have a high enough volume, they will come, they will pick it up. And if you have enough of it, they'll cut you a check. And then they take that and they create a film of it that is 30% post-industrial recycled. So yeah,
That's
sustainability
amazing.
is super. Oh yeah, yeah, and it's pretty cutting edge. As far as I know, they're the only one of the only companies in the industry right now who is working on or is close to actually putting out a biodegradable product. But we are starting to see various shrink film, stretch film, and other flexible packaging manufacturers looking into plant-based alternatives and sourcing more recycled material so that they can offer a product that is at least in part has been recycled already.
That's beautiful. Yeah, see, I love hearing stuff like that. To me, it's really inspiring that, like, again, that, like corporations, a group of people you wouldn't necessarily assume they're like, we got to do the right thing, are out here actively pursuing like an altruistic cause. So thanks for being a part of that.
Yeah, totally, 100% agree. So with that being said, the next question is, would you pay more for a product with earth-friendly packaging?
I would say yes. Unless the addition was an exorbitant extra, but I think that would be good. And here's what I'm hoping is, especially with the way packaging and everything has been, a struggle for the last few years. I was talking to one of our frozen and dairy buyers recently, and just hearing about like how many things. There was a big cream cheese situation, right, where it was just
Yeah.
like getting the packaging together was so difficult. So what I'm sort of hoping is that through both the sustainability plan here, I'm just hoping it'll encourage all brands to take that leap. At least, that's my hope. As maybe
Yeah.
as silly as that might be. So if it means I got to pay a little extra right now, I'm into it. I'll take that first step.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, for the most part, you are going to pay more because the manufacturing process is more in depth and has complexities that traditional formulations of plastics or what have you don't. But it's becoming a trend. Like I noticed that a lot of major corporations out there are doing this, but it's starting to trickle down to smaller companies and even mom and pop shops or creatives who are selling maybe homemade soaps or perfumes or things of that nature on Etsy. I'm seeing that just in my friends group as well as my life in corporate America in the company I work for. So it does seem like we are at least headed in the right direction at this point.
Absolutely, I love to see that too.
Likewise. All right. Well, that brings us to our last question, which is, what is one thing you would like our listeners to know about Jungle Jim's international market?
Here's what I will say. If any of you listening are in the Midwest, even if you're a couple hours away, I'm telling you, and look, I would have told you this as just Mark the guy, not Mark the Jungle Gyms podcast host.
Yeah.
But seriously, it's one of those places that my dad literally is here today. He flew in from California just to experience the store, and this is a guy who spent his life doing commercial real estate and retail. So he's like seen it all. And it's one of those places that I spent about 30 minutes with him before we did the interview. And it was very funny to me because he's just like, there's nothing like this in the world. And, I know we've spawned some imitators, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm glad that I feel confident saying everybody's glad that we've inspired other people to have a little more fun in the workplace. But
Yeah.
there is nothing like it. Again, I'm just a guy that hosting a podcast in a grocery store, as silly as that sounds. But like, come in. We are always doing fun events. And I think one of the really cool things about the brand and the family that runs this place is that they genuinely seem invested in not just having a cool store, but truly providing an opportunity to educate people on food, on the related cultures, and all that kind of stuff. It's truly a one of a kind place.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it sounds like the Disney World of supermarkets.
So well, but it's so funny. When I first started, I was like, I like to think of this as like Walt Disney and Willy Wonka got together. Like, how do we do a grocery store? Well, we're going to call it an international market. And then, but it's really
Yeah.
that. I joke sometimes. I was like, imagine the ultimate gift shop, right? And that's kind of how it feels. Like, Epcot, what are you doing? We're killing it right here in Ohio,
Right. That's awesome. Next stop, you guys will be, making your own Hollywood level production films and
One can
getting
hope.
into. Yeah. Well, one thing that I believe nowadays is a saying my marketing manager told it to me when I first joined the company, and it's that every company is a media company. And if you don't believe that, eventually you're going to fall behind, which is one of the reasons I reached out to you because I thought it was so unique what you're doing. I mean, there are not too many podcast hosts that I have met who broadcast from a supermarket. That is incredibly unique in and of itself.
Yeah, for sure. What's been really cool too, and this is something I would say about Jungle Gyms in general, and I mean, honestly, not to. I've had a really fun, great career, but what's been really refreshing to me here is knowing that, look, when they came to it, they were just like, we don't need this show to be an ad. We just want you to make a good show. And I thought that was like one of the most refreshing things I've ever heard in my entire professional life, where they were just like, just do something cool. Like, be cool. Obviously, it's going to tie back to what we're doing some way, unless you're never going to talk about food, which why would I do that? But it's been really wild to me, to the point that, like, you know, I think somebody used the pinball game metaphor. They're like, we just want you to play the game. And if it gets too far one way or another, just view us as the bumpers at the bottom of the table, just trying to make sure we're on track. And it's been such a cool experience. I can't say enough about it. I'm constantly gushing on the internet about how fun it is to work here. And, if any of you are listening and you want to work in a really cool place, we are hiring for so many departments right now. So come join my family.
Awesome. We'll certainly make a note of that in the credits for the show. And that was the last question. So, Mark, I want to thank you so much for your time and consideration today. It was a fantastic conversation, and you were an absolute pleasure to speak with.
Oh, thank you so much, Nathan. I'm glad we finally got to connect. Like, I almost said face to face, but at least voice to voice.
Totally. Face to face sometime in the future, perhaps.
I'm into it. That would be a lot of fun. Let's make that happen.
Cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, that does it for another episode of the Industrial Packaging Podcast with me, your host, Nathan Dube, Digital Marketing Specialist at Industrial Packaging. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you will tune in for the next one. But until then, I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.